13 to the legends. Oh, we're starting with 13. Legend Crip Gang 2 though. On
Westside run hot as block Crip.
Slim for little snap, bad guy, yeah, big yo. Yeah, you from the gang, on Legend Crip, who did your put on? All black man, black hoodie, get my boogie on. Cream made, or 6 feet, we want the niggas gone. Y'all ain't
You got some money. You got some money. Hey, bro, don't get on the internet, bro.
fuck taco, we right here, Chris, y'all man.
Hey, Red Eye. Hey, Red Eye. Show them shoes, blood.
We got trophies out here. We got real life rewards out here, blood.
Oh, damn.
Rap News Street Politics, the best hood channel on YouTube, and we back in Inglewood about to speak on how the Inglewood family Gangsta Bloods and Centinela Park have took the same stance as the rest of the Inglewood Bloods and Pyrus against Inglewood 13 after a somewhat truce between Inglewood 13, Queen Street, and Neighborhood Pyru, as well as seeing how Inglewood 13 is now trying to align themselves with the Neighborhood Crips to go against the rest of the Inglewood Bloods.
we're starting with 13 to the legends. We're starting with 13. Legend Crip Gang 2 though.
Westside run hot as block Crip.
On hood, nigga. BK Slop Kato. On hood.
Now make sure y'all hit that like button before we get cracking, and in the comments below, let us know which report card y'all want to see next. We got the Crip report card, Southside report card, and the non-affiliate report card. Let us know what y'all want to see in the comments below. And whichever one got the most comments in the first 48 hours of this video, that's the one we gonna drop next. So what we see right now going on, Inglewood 13 is pushing BK extremely heavy. They striking it up everywhere, and they including all Bloods in their movement right now. And this is a situation that's really transpired within the last 2 years, I would say since about 2023, where Inglewood family of Centinela Park has got involved in this beef with I-13. Usually them hoods have been known to get along, and the key thing is the families and the I-13s overlap each other. So Inglewood 13 is the largest Hispanic gang in Inglewood. We know there's other Hispanic hoods over here, 18th Street, who's losing ground to SoFi and the Intuit Dome. We know there's Thefi, the Malditos, and some of Lennox 13 hood is also in Inglewood. But again, I-13 holds the biggest section. They occupy that Hyde Park area where they share their hood at Centinela Park with CPF, right on the borderline of IFG, Queen Street, and Neighborhood Pyru. And they also occupy the same area as 9-4 Inglewood family between Manchester and Century, and La Brea and the 405, with Arborvita being the main strip between them two hoods. So with them hoods overlapping, they've usually shared decent relationships, even though I-13 has been back and forth with Queen Street and Neighborhood Pyru. We know there were situations between both of them hoods and Inglewood family as well in the past. But as we see now, all the Inglewood Bloods are pushing the same movement. And now that this fallout has happened with the families in I-13, we see some interesting things happening with I-13 and the neighborhoods. We've seen some I-13 rappers rapping with G Money DT from Neighborhood 90, who's just down Century from this situation. And we know G Money DT is close to some of them young members out the Stink Team, and we know where the Stink Team and the whole city of Inglewood lies in terms of the underlying issue. So anybody aligning themselves with that movement is already going to be considered an enemigo off top.
For some, I'm a hood trophy. I'm a joint, I'm the one. I love popping bottles, fucking model shit is fun. Thirsty for a body, I'm trying to go score some. I got rollers with me, and they wanna force some.
I got rollers on me, why you think they throwing up though? Niggas mad, trying to hide the hate, but it show you can't come around me if you scared of toad on the pole, must not really.
We seen in the video, I-13 pushing I-13 Legend and Rolling Hunnids. Again, further aligning themselves with the Inglewood blood enemies. And we gotta shout out Richard Dummy, man. Richard Dummy be bringing y'all rappers from every section of the city. He done showed these dudes from Inglewood 13, Duke Nasty and Goon Deuce. He really be putting it out there for y'all, so we gotta shout him out. Now, The situation with the Legends and I-13 is not a full-fledged alliance. I do see I-13 hitting up over here in this Legend Crip hood. And again, the Legends are a neighborhood, but they not doing any clicking up with the Inglewood 13. And shout out Inglewood Legend channel. Y'all make sure y'all go check him out. I know he ain't posted in a little bit. Y'all go hit him up and get him back on that YouTube run. But them 9 dudes Legends are not clicking up with I-13.
Fuck the hot bitch, they kicked her out, shake her ass home. What the fuck was the nigga thinking? Never bring him home. I slid for a little snap. Bad guy, yeah, big yo. Yeah, you from the game? On let the Crip who did your put on. All black man, black hoodie, get my boogie on. Cremate, or 6 feet, we want the niggas gone.
But like I said, I-13 has also been seen with the 9-0s and the 100s. Now, I believe all of this started off around 2023, and Inglewood was extremely hot that year. And I can't necessarily say for certain that this is what caused it. I've heard many different reasons why it cracked off, but it seemingly went up when a black dude was killed at that Andy's Liquor off Arborvitae and Cedar. Now, I gotta say rest in peace to my boy Looney. He used to stay over there on Cedar. We would go to that liquor store every time I'm over there. That liquor store did used to be hot, and it seemingly still is. But that situation where that black man was killed happened in May of that year, 2023. Now, I can't say that situation was fully connected to this war, but that's right on the borderline of 9-4 Inglewood family and the Inglewood 13. But after that, it seemed to set off a chain of events. 2 weeks after that situation, a Hispanic man was killed off La Cienega and Centinela in the neighborhood Parus. The next month, another Hispanic man was killed over here in this 9-4 family and I-13 hood off Fur and Kelso. And another month after that, another Hispanic man was killed in this same area, the 9-4 Inglewood families and the I-13s off Arborvitae and Rosewood, 2 blocks up from that liquor store where the black dude was killed 2 months prior. And 2 months after this murder off Rosewood and Arborvitae, another Hispanic man is killed on Century and Gavella, which is the borderline of Lennox, the 9-4 Inglewood families, and the I-13s. In October 2023, everything seemed to bubble up. Now, at the beginning of the month, off Manchester and 11th Ave, damn near the middle of CMT Inglewood family, 5 OGs were hit, and 2 of them lost their life in a parking lot on October 7th.
The victims are all 5 black men over 50 years old who were sitting in a car in this parking lot when another car drove in the lot, firing shots.
Now, I'm not insinuating that I-13 or the neighborhoods was involved in that, but like I said, ever since May, a chain of events had cracked off, and it seemed to boil over right here on Manchester and 11th Ave. And 2 weeks after that, 2 more Hispanic men were killed, another one in the neighborhood Pyrus off Venice and Glenway, and another one in the I-13 hood off Hillcrest and Ash. And that year ended with a black man being killed in the Legends off La Brea and Buckthorn, right on that borderline between the Legends, the 9-4 families, and the Inglewood 13. So as we see the year this beef cracked off with IFG and I-13, Inglewood was extremely hot. Mind you, this is only a couple years removed from when Darby was killed and Frosty was shot, Dagger was killed off Centinela and Hyde Park. The last few years have been extremely active in Inglewood, and this new beef with I-13 seems to low-key throw a wrench in the situation.
That nigga. Oh, beat him. Oh, you good, gang? You good? You good, bro? You good? You good? Oh.
Now, usually, the most known BK hood in Inglewood is 18th Street. Main block over here, 106 and Doty, between Yukon, Prairie, right next to the C Murder Gang and the Malditos. But this area has low-key been drying up. They getting rid of Morningside. That Clipper Stadium and SoFi has really brought some gentrification over here in this 18th Street area. So what we see now with I-13 fully pushing BK, we see a lot of young dudes getting caught out of bounds. I-13 getting caught in a lot of different situations, and I've also seen them catching young dudes from Inglewood family. There's been multiple situations this year where they haven't resulted in gunplay, but these dudes is getting down, catching fades, And one situation did look like somebody from Inglewood that say was about to lose his life when he was jumped and drug out of the food spot over here in Inglewood. So a lot of these young dudes is getting cracking right now.
Get up out of here, nigga! Yeah, get up out of here, nigga! Deep blood ass. Hey, good job, nigga. You got some money? You got some money, nigga? Hey, bro, don't get on the internet, bro.
And we know Inglewood family's always involved in a lot of shit. Usually we hear about them and the 6-0s. Now, low-key, a lot has been happening over here around Hyde Park and Crenshaw. In February of this year, a black man was killed on Hyde Park and West Boulevard at that borderline of the families and the 6-0s. And the following month, there was another murder over here off Florence and Crenshaw again. This is the borderline, this is the front line between 6-0 and Inglewood family. Now, as we recording this video, there was an altercation between the police and some people over here at a vigil on Hyde Park and Crenshaw, but that situation, I don't believe was gang related. If I'm not mistaken, I think somebody was involved in a motorcycle crash, but nonetheless, this area has been hot this year. But what a lot of people don't talk about is 9-0 Inglewood family and the Rolling Hunters and Inglewood family. Now, like I said, I-13 has been seen with both of these hoods, and this is adding fuel to the fire because we know it goes up between the 9-0s and the families. One of the most notorious blocks in the families, 9 Deuce, is going to be right next to the 9-0s. Those apartments on Crenshaw and Arborvitae. Darby Park, extremely active. 8-0 is not going to be far from here. 7-7. It goes up right here in this section with the 9-0s. And we know this is where the A-Trays and the Inglewood families are also cordial at. And I'm speaking on this because some people get in the comments and say sometimes there be too much emphasis on alliances. But what y'all got to understand is the streets are a very thin line. Everybody's walking a tightrope. The smallest thing can have the biggest repercussions. As I-13, you running with 9-0s, you running with Rolling Hunters. Let's just say they up at Jesse Owens. If the A-Trays is sliding, they not gonna say, hold on, there's some Inglewood 13s up there, let me not bust on these dudes today. No, you hanging with these dudes, it's bound to go down. So it's very heavy when situations like this are occurring where you see it, Inglewood 13 rolling with the 9-0s or the Rolling Hunters. You don't have to be fully aligned to get involved into some whole other politics that originally have nothing to do with your set. Because what happens if somebody from I-13 ends up getting killed over here in the 9-0s or the Hunters by the A-Trays or the Hoovers? Now, we see the Hoovers also cool with the Inglewood families pushing Inglewood verbs.
We had no original, who what, Inglewood verbs, who you see strategic clock kill is real. Oh yeah, nigga know where we at. That street. 34 Gunny Honey boys, yeah, no.
We know about the SMG, but again, that's some more thin line shit. Your whole hood doesn't necessarily have to be aligned, especially when a few of your reputable young homies is aligning themselves with other people. It's gonna drag your hood into some shit. And we know this intersection right here is a melting pot for a lot of bullshit. Century and Van Ness. Avenue Piru is here. 104 Hard Time is here.
Western Avenue, cuz. You know, and all that, man. You know? I said, tell the f***ers, man, I'm over here. You know? I'm here. Tell Inglewood families I said Nightbud, nigga. I'm here. Tell them I'm over here, man. Where y'all at? I'm here. Bitch ass niggas don't hang out, cuz on Hard Time, nigga. Solo dolo, nigga. 10-4, we go, though. I'm here. Let's go up in this bitch.
And down 104th is 3 different sets that push that main block. CMG, Avenue Piru, and Hard Time. The Inglewood families is here and the 9-0s is here. And the situation that we spoke on numerous times on this channel was the recent murder of King Boy from Harlem, damn near at this intersection, which transpired over Memorial Day and allegedly set off a string of retaliatory murders between the hoods in this section. Now, the 9-0s have also been known to have issues with the Hard Times, even though the Hard Times is a part of the Rolling Hunters, basically neighborhood. Now, they're not beefing with each other, but we have seen recently the 9-0s was hidden up in the Hard Times and they drew the arrow on it. claiming the turf. The hard time seemingly came back with the green can, which is their color. Didn't whack the 9-0s out, but whacked the arrows out. Now that situation stemmed about 15 years ago, I believe about 2012, 2013, where something transpired with some beef between the 9-0s and the hard times. Now they're not in beef right now, like I said, but again, this corner brings a lot of activity. And I hear some people saying I-13 is attempting to align themselves with these different neighborhood Crip sets because there's too many blood and Paru hoods going against them that they squeezed in between in Inglewood. Now, I can't say if that's true. That's for y'all to speak on in the comments, but that's just what the streets is saying. And you know, that's not to take away from any of they gangsters, not saying that they not outside. We know these dudes have been known to get crack and they've been known to shoot it out multiple times with the police, as well as they warfare with their enemies on the streets. But again, these are the whispers.
Oh! Hey, my sister, shit right there. Hold on. Bro, what the fuck?
Now again, I did speak about a truce that did exist between Queen Street and neighborhood Pyru at one point in time. I believe within the last 5 years that it went down around 2020, 2021. And at one time, Inglewood to SA and the Inglewood Bloods did get along. It wasn't always beef. We even seen the reputable homie G Hab from neighborhood Pyru speak on how he grew up with the I-13s and how he learned a lot of game from these dudes. So it hasn't always been beef. Now in 2022, I-13 did lose a young homie suspect who was a 16-year-old that ended up losing his life on Centinela in Hyde Park, the middle of I-13, CPF, and NHP. Now, I'm not gonna say that's the straw that broke the camel's back, but I-13 does seem to push that name, and that's over here by that Hyde Park Locos clique. Now, I-13 has also been seen piecing it up with their Sureño enemies in Tepa Gang and Lennox. Now, I don't know if that peace treaty is still alive. There has been a couple homicides in this Lennox area. Again, I don't know what's been going on over there. We know Sucker Free was killed in an internal situation over there in his hood. Had nothing to do, even though other hoods may have claimed that situation, we know the facts that came out about what transpired with Sucker Free over there in Lennox. And we know I-13 also beefs it with Crenshaw Mafia and the Malditos. Again, giving them more reason to align themselves with the NACs. And those type of implications can have lasting effects, especially if somebody was caught out of bounds. Now we see last year, some Inglewood families did get convicted of sliding in the 9-0s. Now the actual homicide itself took place in September 2019, before the fallout of the families in I-13 and before I-13 has seemingly pushed themselves closer to neighborhood Crip sets. But like I said, these are the implications that are still bound to happen today.
I was going dumb with that little thing. I'm Tony Youngs, I never run. I up this bitch if I can't give him phase. I was at the park way before the change. Smoking weed up on the slide, I got so high, I thought Coach Kelly came. If we don't see him, he gon' see the piss. Type to organize the DP on Bloods, I'm still jumping in. Tiny young gangster to the death of me. I can make 100 birds off this stove, I got the recipe.
Now, like I said previously, the families and the 9-0s border each other. And we know the 9-0s border St. Andrews Park, just south of 89th. The family seemingly slid over on 89th and Harvard, technically in the A-Trades is past Western, but they was looking for the 9-0s. And in broad daylight, Datrion Browder from IFG saw Timothy Phillips and James Carter in their car off 89th and Harvard. It said that Phillips had knocked his cigarette out the car and had leaned out to get it. And this is when Browder started popping, lighting the car up, and killing James Carter over here while he was looking for some 9-0s. Now Phillips, who was in the car with Carter, ran home and ended up calling the police and made some statements saying that he saw Broward and his co-defendant Levon Tippett as the ones that got off on him over here on 89th. Now at trial, Phillips didn't take the stand. He didn't want to be labeled as a snitch, but he already said everything he needed to say. And gang experts linked Broward and Tippett to 80 Inglewood family gangster bloods. Now we know since this time in 2019, a lot has transpired between both of these hoods. I'm not gonna speak on it, but we've seen the 9-0s dissing a lot of fallen members from the IFG side, especially Baby Darby, who was a well-known homie over here. But this is a very active situation with the 9-0s and the families, and now I-13 has inserted itself in this type of warfare with the Inglewood family gangsters. Now, like I've said many times, we know about the SMG, Inglewood family, A-Tray, and the Hoovers. And we know that's kind of somewhat of a subjective situation. And we see a lot of people say it's not a full-fledged alliance, but all these hoods have known to get along. A-Tray, Hoover, and Inglewood family. Like I said, the Hoovers been on to push Inglewood verse over here in Inglewood. And we know the A-Trays are everything gangster. We know the Hoovers be over here by Bud Long and 90th. We know the Avalons got a setup over here in their hood as well. If I'm not mistaken, I believe they got a weed shop over here in this hood. But this situation with I-13 and the NHCs also have implications with the A-Trays. Now, with them I-13s that was saying I-13 legend, we also heard some people and seen some people representing the Rolling Hunters, Block Crip. Now, the same year that this Inglewood family and Inglewood 13 beef kicked off, we see the Rolling Hunters being convicted on a double homicide that happened in the A-Tray Gangsta Crip hood. Now, again, just like the last one, this situation transpired before that beef jumped off. But these are some of the situations that are transpiring that you aligning yourself with when you start clicking up or attempting to click up with different hoods. Now, this situation was back in October 2017, where Baby Killer from the Hunters was shot in the car at around 2 a.m. Now, he did lose his life in this situation, but he was with somebody named Keith Walker, also from the Hunters. Now, they took Baby Killer to the hospital and met up with Lil Killshot, Hank, and Uzi from the Hunters. And this is where it was devised to get back on the A-Trays, who they said was responsible for shooting up the whip that night. Now, they ended up getting their tools together and picking up Lady Toon and Lil Lady Blue Flame, homegirls to some top names, of course, from the Hunters. Now, they initially slid to the paybacks, and this is what I'm talking about, things being a thin line. They was torn between the A-Trays and the paybacks being responsible. But like I said, when you kicking it with different hoods and everybody's beefing, everything's on a thin line. The smallest move can drag your hood into some bullshit. They slid to the paybacks, didn't see nobody over there in the paybacks, and ended up sliding back up to 77th to St. Andrews, which is, if I'm not mistaken, the far west of A-Tray. And at this point, they said they seen 3 dudes outside smoking, and they felt like since they was wearing royal blue, they was more than likely gangsta Crips. Now, they ended up recognizing one of them dudes from the county from an incident on the hood day where they got into it with the EPGs in the courthouse. And this is when Lil Killshot and Keith Walker jump out on foot and ended up letting off on a group of dudes that was barbecuing over here on 77th and St. Andrews between 77th and 78. And this resulted in Clifford Benton and Warner Stern losing their life on what they homies called a hit based on how the Hunters had rolled up and jumped out on them. And it said that Benton was hit 5 times while the Hunters was yelling disses about the A-Trays, and Stern was hit twice. Now, after this, everything was already going bad because they homie had just got shot prior to this event. When the police had got up there to the shooting scene, they heard the members from the Hunters in communication about what was going on about their homies being shot. And all they had to do was piece 2 and 2 together, along with witness statements, and they gaffled 5 of these dudes up in December 2020, 3 years after the situation. Now, T-Lo, who went down with these dudes, ended up turning state's witness, working with the prosecution, and making statements on his homies for a 15-year sentence on voluntary manslaughter for a double homicide. He snitched on Infant Killer, Big Killshot, and Baby Knuckles, all from Rolling 100 Block Crip. But after the hit, it said they older homies said they did some weird shit by hitting some old men over there, not even no real members. And this is when Infant Killer replied, they lived over here in the A-Trays anyway. Of course, he dissed the A-Trays, but he said they had to get it for even being over here. These are the thin lines I'm talking about. Like I said, a lot of people say there'd be too much emphasis on small things, small details. These small things will get your ass killed. Again, they talking about not even killing no members of A-Tray and was just happy because they lived in the A-Trays. So these alliances and these proclamations that your hood is clicking up with other hoods, that's at war with other hoods, everything is fair game. Everybody's playing ball. And you know, this is how this shit always play out. But you know, we gotta keep y'all up to date with what's going on all throughout the city. This time we came with Inglewood. We got another video dropping soon. Again, let us know what report card y'all want next. And whatever has the most comments in the first 48 hours, that's the one we gonna drop. Make sure y'all hit that like button and subscribe to this. It's the best hood channel on YouTube. Rap news, street politics. We out.
I gave him keys and socked him out, he wasn't trying to play. And you ain't really from the turf if you don't know my name. I get a bag and always down to blow a nigga face. And I ain't great, I squabble blacks cause I ain't like my game. On Hyde Park after school, I hung out every day. Nella Park with the bitches getting sucky face.